Hey everyone, it's Dustin with TWPD. We are here at a house to fix an LG Q7. It's an interesting new phone that came out from T-Mobile. Anyways, I'm going to show some short videos of me tearing it down. So I got my brand new mat here. I'm very excited. I got this at Mentor. And I got some new titanium tweezers here, which is really fun. Also, something new to the channel. Here I got a wow stick. Once again, you get this all at Mentor. It's really nice and makes things a lot quicker. So here's the new blue Q7, LG Q7, and then the back here. And so what we're gonna do is just go ahead and warm this up hot to the touch, and we'll go from there. And feel free to watch this in 4K so you can get some really good details here. So you just wanna do a nice motion like this, back and forth. Once again, you want to get hot to the touch. Make sure the phone is turned off as well. Unlike jerry-rig everything, I use the Iflex tool. It's a lot easier to get in. Just don't go in too far, just barely enough. Cut the adhesive all the way around the sides here. I'm just going to start popping this up. I don't have my camera equipment today to have a nice steady camera, unfortunately. I forgot to bring it. You can just go back and forth and make sure it's nice and warm while you're doing that. Okay, so it looks like I used a little bit too much heat and I got a little bit of warpage. Come to find out, this is not made out of glass. So this is just plastic. And it's also stuck down there really good right here in the center. So you just got to be careful with that and warm it up a little bit. So what we're going to do is remove all this extra adhesive off the sides so we can, re-put new adhesive down. I use Tessa tape, which works really great. This is a truly unique design because the actual back goes into this crevice here. So we're going to just take our screwdriver here and start unscrewing it. Pretty handy little tool here. And I like to try to leave the screws in the actual bracket. Makes life a lot easier. So we got a bunch of screws to go here. We'll just fast forward through this part. Okay, so now that we got all these screws loosened up, like I said, you don't have to remove them. We just take our tool here, and that's our iFixit tool. Or, yeah, it's just iseasmo, but whatever you want to call it. And just barely get in there, but we're going to just pry this up. Like I said, I'm doing this with one hand here, so it's kind of challenging. So I just literally got in right there. And sometimes the screws just pop out anyways, and if that's the case, you can just put them off to the side. So we do mobile repairs, so I'm at the customer's house right now. And their daughter keeps on going into the house and she's ringing the doorbell. It's real fun. Anyways, so we're going to just pop these out. You can use a plastic pry or just use your fingernail. Either one's easier for you. Now, I've never opened this phone up or even seen a video on it. So I'm just exploring and, disconnecting different things here. So I was just disconnecting that front camera. And it's not coming out, so we're just going to leave it alone for a second. And see if anything else wants to come out here. Pry right here. So when we pry right here, this whole motherboard thing is starting to come up. So we're going to stop with that. Next thing we're going to focus on here is let's remove the SIM card here. So you just get a SIM card popper tool. Now that we've got the actual SIM card tray out, we're just going to use like a plastic tool, like this one's a pick, and actually pop out the motherboard here. So you could just have to find a spot. And as you can see, it's just popping out here. And then we're going to just take it by hand. Take it by hand here. The hand keeps on getting in the way. And we're going to pop out the whole board. So it's very similar to the G6, G7. not much of a difference. Okay, so now we're gonna have to remove all these components out of the actual phone here. Next thing we're gonna do is actually warm it up so all these components can start coming out nice and evenly. I'd recommend warming it up for about a good 1 minute on high settings. This is a cheap heat gun that cost me $25. Just get it nice and warm. If the screen starts yellowing, then you know that you're getting it hot enough. We're not trying to salvage the screen as we're replacing everything. I do recommend replacing the LCD glass and frame because it's going to add the additional strength back to the frame, especially if the customer has dinged up their phone. Replacing that's going to always make it last a lot longer. So this is why we're doing it this way. So warming it up from underneath is going to help pull out the battery and other small components. And thank you very much for holding the camera for me. Customers helping me that way. So just make sure you get in close to what I'm doing here. So we're just popping out the battery here. And it's getting too hot to hold. My glove's back on. And so we're slowly and carefully prying the battery up because it does not have any pull tabs. Just make sure you slice downward and not upward because you do not want to slice that battery. This is a very tricky battery, so be very careful with this. I would not recommend an amateur to do this, as they have stuck down this battery very good. And unfortunately, LG is notorious for doing this. So we're going to remove that old adhesive because we're going to put some new adhesive down. Okay, if the board is still hot, which is what's the case right here, we're going to go ahead and move up these components off the motherboard. This is where our tweezers are going to come into play. It's actually going to help unglue that from that side there. And we're going to see if this pops out this way or what way. Okay, so it's not... Whoop, there it goes. Found it, and it literally went flying towards the camera. So make sure you cover it when you're popping it out of that socket so that way you don't lose it. So we're going to go ahead and dig the vibrator out. Okay, and just for convenience here, and so that way we don't forget where things go, we're going to start putting the components in as we take them out, because I do not want to forget where they go. There's so many different small little components here. Okay, put that back in where it belongs. So it's a little loose. It's because it doesn't have an adhesive. So we'll see if we can transfer this adhesive over. If not, yeah, it's not going to transfer. What we're going to do is put down some adhesive. All right, so we're just getting some tape here, and we're going to go ahead and put it on where the vibrator motor is so it doesn't come flying out of the phone. Well, it wouldn't do that because the motherboard is going to be there, but it certainly helps when it's vibrating all over the place, when the phone's getting notifications, to make sure that you tape that down. Okay, we're going to stick that down here. Okay, so next thing we're going to need to do is transfer this, and this. So loudspeaker, ear speaker, charge port, front camera, volume rockers, ear speaker. Yeah, lots of little speakers. Your buttons are not already in there, so we're going to have to pop those out too. So let's start with the buttons so I don't forget those. Usually you can get your tool in between there and pop out the buttons, but if that doesn't work, then what we can do is poke them out from the inside. And that's exactly what happened for this one. Just make sure you keep the same orientation and just push it in. And maybe I didn't keep the same orientation, but try it one more time. Okay, it looks like this little rubber piece fell off here. And I already bent my nice tweezers. We're gonna have to pop this back out. This is why we don't get too far into a phone, because sometimes you forget important little steps like this. I'll go ahead and move this out. It's not that glued on. Oh, there goes the screen. At least that one's broken. Thank you, my helper.
I'm a big helper. My little brother doesn't help at all.
It's okay. You're just on YouTube right now. Okay, so we're going to just push this back in the hole here, and hopefully, if I did that right, we're going to have a button action again. Man, this is a pesky little phone. Okay. Oh, we got the button action. So you got to be really careful about removing these pieces out here. So let's get the next one. Pop this bad boy out. And then we're going to hit it with a little heat. Probably about 10 seconds. Not even that. Slide that out carefully. Okay, so that's removed, and now we're going to poke these out, and hopefully they stay this time attached, but maybe. Nope, they come out. Wow, this is a pesky phone. All right, well, that's what we have to do. This kind of stuff makes the phone much more time consuming to do when you have to mess with tiny little stuff like this. The reason why we're not replacing the screen, like I said earlier, you can, but it requires gluing it down, which is a little bit more trouble, and plus it doesn't add the strength that you need when replacing the screen. Push that in. So the long way goes in first, the short side comes out. If you guys can see that, just push them in the holes. Okay, now that we got that, looks like we don't have any tape right there. So of course, now we have to bring out some tape. Tape down right here. That way that component stays. Your volume rocker that connects to the motherboard. Stick that over the designated area on the holes, and then we're going to lay this down, this contraction down here, and make sure we got clicking buttons. Okay, so we're not getting clicking anymore here. There we go, pushed it in. Now we're getting clicking. Okay, on to the next components here. Let's see if that front camera wants to come out now or not. Sometimes they really stick down. You gotta pry them up a little bit. There we go. Just make sure you don't touch the front side of it. It's just glued down a little bit. Like we got a little piece of hair in there, so we're moving that out. Come on, go away, piece of hair. Okay, now for this ear speaker, just gonna blast it, get nice and toasty, about 10 seconds here. It should be warm enough. Oh, it is. Okay, now these love to separate if you don't take them out properly. So what we're going to do here is test the temperature. Still not hot enough. Not too much on the other side, just this side. We don't want to damage the ear speaker. Okay, so we're going to go underneath. Make sure you dig down towards the frame and the lifting up action here. Okay, it looks like it has no option to get under it. So we're going to just find an open hole and try to pull this up carefully. And hopefully it doesn't separate. Okay, did not separate. Good. That is a big problem. On ear speakers, they love to separate. All right, now that it looks like all of our components have been transferred properly over, now we can focus on down below. This looks like it's screwed in, so let's go ahead and unscrew it. Let's move our screw over there. This whole thing comes up. That's nice, but this one's glued down. Let's get our tool and carefully lift this up. That way we don't damage that piece here. Just pry this up and find a little nice hole to dig under, which would be right here. This whole thing comes out. Go ahead and push this new one in. And then we're going to stick this down. If it has enough adhesive, it does. It can stay. If not, you're going to reapply some new adhesive. We're going to shove this into its proper holes. Charge port and all. This seems to go that direction. And fun one. There we go. You have to put a little pressure right there. Now we're going to screw that screw that we just took out back out. Okay, that is out. Now time to put the motherboard in. We're going to clip everything down. I'll put the SIM card in last. And we're going to put a little bit of adhesive tape down. Look, we just put some adhesive tape down. Either Tessa or 3M is fine. I like to use the lighter stuff on the battery because it's not as hard to remove if the customer breaks it again. Stick that down here. Make sure everything is sitting aligned properly. A little spongy right there, but I'm sure it'll go down here once we put all the brackets back in here. Yep. So we're going to stick this little piece back in. It was the only thing with the silver screw, so we're just going to screw that in first. Everything else was black screws. And we're just going to screw down everything here, and we're just going to go ahead and, fast forward through this basically. So no need to, but we're going to just put all these screws back in.